Salutations, everybody. Welcome to Collider Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on Collider Video, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name's John Campia. Thanks a lot for joining me here on this Saturday. And if you're watching this on Saturday, you'll probably have noticed that this episode is getting up just a little bit late. I have actually been in New York for the past number of days, and I just got back early this morning. As a lot of you know, I joined Complex. Complex is the company that owns Collider, and we are now Collider Video. And Complex is based out of New York, and we have like over 300 people that work for the company. And I have never been out to the main offices out in New York, or met with a lot of the big leadership at Complex. So we had an annual meeting there, and then they thought that would be a good time to schedule a lot of meetings for me. So I went out there, had about 8 meetings, hung out right down in Times Square. It was a good time, and I'm not going to reveal anything right now, but we have big things coming. We have some very big things coming, which I'm really excited about. But anyway, then I had a 6-hour flight coming back. I don't do well with flying. I hate flying. I'm stressed the whole time that I'm flying. I hate it so much. So usually when I get off a plane, I'm a total wreck. So I had a 6-hour flight back, got back really, really early this morning. So that's why we're getting today's show going a little bit late. But lateness aside, hey, a couple things dropped while I was out of the office. One of the things that dropped was a brand new Star Wars International trailer. Now, normally, international trailers are pretty much the same thing as the trailer they're based on, just with a few minor differences. This one was practically an entirely brand new trailer. In and of itself. There was also the first Warcraft trailer. Now, a lot of people have been asking me what I think about them, and I will put up my thoughts on a separate video. I'll put this up a little bit today, because today I just want to get to mailbag questions. We got a bunch of them come in, so let's stop wasting time and let's get to the first mailbag question of the day. And the first mailbag question today comes to us from Gairett Taylor, who writes, do you think the sci-fi success from Star Wars will encourage basically he's talking about J.J. Abrams, to finally make Cloverfield 2? Fingers crossed. Well, thanks a lot for the question. For those of you who don't remember, of course, Cloverfield, you can see right down here, was that big mystery monster movie. It came out in 2008, I believe. And I'll be honest with you. That was a film that divided a lot of people. Some people really loved it, and some people really hated it. While I did not really hate the movie, I leaned more towards those people. I didn't like the film. I had problems with it, and I didn't actually enjoy it that much. But it is crazy how many people still today think J.J. Abrams directed that movie. J.J. Abrams, as a matter of fact, did not direct the movie. The movie was actually directed by Matt Reeves. Now, Matt Reeves, you might know, also directed the North American version of Let Me In, he did a really great job translating that movie, basically. He also directed the last Planet of the Apes movie, and he's directing the next Planet of the Apes movie as well. Matt Reeves is the one who directed Cloverfield. And actually, there's a pretty cool lineage with Cloverfield as well, because the writer of Cloverfield, a lot of people don't know, was Drew Goddard. And Drew Goddard just wrote and was executive producer on the Daredevil series. He also directed Cabin in the Woods that he wrote with Joss Whedon. So there's a really cool pedigree with that movie Cloverfield, with JJ involved as a producer. You had Reeves directing, you had Drew Goddard writing. So even though I'm not a big fan of that movie at all, it is pretty cool when you look at the pedigree involved in that movie. So let's just get that straight right away. J.J. Abrams did not direct Cloverfield. But he was a producer on it, so could that make him want to, get, Matt Reeves back together and Drew Goddard back together and do a Cloverfield 2? I don't think so. Like I said, there were enough people out there that didn't really like it. I'm not a big fan of it. There were sequel possibilities. There's things in that movie where you could spin a sequel off of. Absolutely you could, but it's been 5 or 6 years since that movie. And on top of that, now you've got other giant monster properties coming out that are you've got Godzilla and King Kong and Godzilla versus King Kong coming. You got, they're still trying desperately to get a Pacific Rim 2 put together. I personally, I don't really think that one's going to happen, but it's, I just can't see it happen. I just can't see that one happening. So I don't personally think JJ or Matt Reeves or Drew Goddard, and they're all extremely busy. I don't think we're going to see. It's certainly not impossible. Like I said, there were enough people that did like that first one, and it made a decent amount of money. And the story did leave open sequel possibilities. I just personally don't think it's one they're going to go back to. Thanks a lot for the question. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one today comes to us from Heston Roberts, who writes, "Hey guys, big fan of MovieTalk and the amazing cast in front and behind the camera. Thank you so much, Heston. Keep up the awesome work. I can't help but think DC's explanation of their TV shows taking place in one universe and their films in another is a lazy excuse to not explore a true cohesive form of storytelling. If Samuel L. Jackson and Jaimie Alexander could appear on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., imagine Ben Affleck's Batman on screen with Stephen Amell's Green Arrow. Would love to hear what you think." Thanks a lot for the question, Heston. You are not alone in the way you're thinking about that, but I have mentioned my thoughts on this before, and I will say them again. DC not having a giant shared cohesive universe is the smartest thing they've done so far. I am not a fan of, and I think the experiment of trying to merge the movie universe and the TV universe for Marvel has been a failure. I think it's been a failure. Now, so much so that you notice that when Daredevil came out, they acknowledge in Daredevil, ever so subtly, they acknowledge in Daredevil that it is one universe, but it's ever so subtle, and all it is an acknowledgement. They don't actively do anything as a shared cinematic universe because they looked at what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did the first couple of seasons and saw that it didn't work. It just didn't work. And I've always said this, and I truly believe it, that when you have a shared television and movie universe, you are tying the creative hands of the showrunners of the TV. They can't do what they want to do. They can't do what they think is best for their show because they have to keep it consistent with whatever is going on in the movies. So you really limit. I mean, if the movies say New York got destroyed, now your show has to say New York got destroyed. If you want to say in your TV show, half of Chicago got devastated by this, but they're not doing that in the movies, then you can't do it. You might want to have this character to do this thing, but the movie's going to use that character to do this other thing. You are creatively tying the hands of the people involved. And I think that's one of the big reasons why when Daredevil did come out, they didn't do anything that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they don't do it nearly as much anymore because I think even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is learning from their mistakes. But in those first 2 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was all Thor this and Iron Man that and the Avengers and the Chitauri invasion of New York. It was all trying to so desperately bang you over the head with, see, we're part, those movies you love, we're part of it. They did that so nauseatingly that, and it turned a lot of people off, including me, that when Daredevil was getting made, they were like, okay, we're in the same universe, we've already established that, but let's make no references whatsoever. Let's put up a newspaper clipping in the background where you can see the Leviathan that the Hulk took out. Let's make some vague reference joke about this one character, but have nothing interact between the movie universe and our show. And I think a part of the reason Daredevil did that is because they realized that was a mistake. It was a mistake, the stuff they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the first 2 seasons. And frankly, The Flash is a much better show right now because it's not tied in with the movie universe. And I think the movie universe is going to be well served by not having to be tied by what they're doing in the TV shows. It isn't lazy filmmaking, it's intelligent filmmaking. It's smart the way they're doing that. And I think that's why you even see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. moving away more and more from their constant, their obsessiveness with showing every single episode, see, we're a part of the Avengers world, see. Now, in this season, which is a better season than what they've done before, I'm still not a big fan of the show, but even now in this season, they've learned from those mistakes, and even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now separating themselves from those constant references to the movie universe to free themselves up a bit. So no, myself personally, I know a lot of people love the idea of a shared TV and cinematic universe. I do not. And even DC's television universe isn't all shared. CW's DC properties, The Flash, Green Arrow, and the upcoming Legends of Tomorrow, those are all shared universe, but Supergirl isn't a part of that, who's over on CBS. So I personally love the way that DC is handling it more than the way Marvel is handling it. I'm a bigger fan of the Marvel movies than I am of the DC movies so far, even though I still contend that Man of Steel is a masterpiece. But I think DC is taking the smart approach. I think they're taking the better approach. And I think you're going to see their long-term results are going to be better as well. So that's just my thoughts on it. Thank you for sharing yours. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Marco Clarke, who writes, Hey, Collider Video crew. Hey, Collider Video crew, but is it crazy to think that Zoom could be Earth 2 Eddie Thawn, and he's extra motivated to kill Barry because he feels like his Earth 1 counterpart killed himself to save the Flash was useless? Thanks, and keep up the great work. For those of you who don't know, this is a question about the TV show The Flash, which I just referenced. I love The Flash. I think it's the best superhero show on TV right now. I'm just a big fan of it. And if you don't watch it so far, make sure you tune in and catch on Tuesday nights. We do a Flash recap show. It's me, Gairett Taylor, John Roca, David Griffin. We have a great time talking about The Flash. So if you are a fan of The Flash, make sure you come over to Collider Video on Tuesday nights, after you've watched the episode, of course, and watch our Flash recap show. And that being said, there's been this theory that Earth 2 could be Thawne. I don't buy that theory. Number one, because remember, until the rifts, the two sides are completely ignorant. Like, all the various universes are ignorant of each other. So Eddie Thawn in Earth 2 wouldn't even know what Eddie Thawn in Earth 1 did. And it looks like, so far, the doppelgangers, like when somebody from Earth 2 comes over to Earth 1, the first thing they want to do is kill their Earth 1 counterpart. So I don't think that's it at all. One theory that we've batted around before, and now some people are starting to really buy into, is the idea that Barry's dad, played by John Wesley Shipp, who played the original Flash in the 1990 TV series, some people believe he is Zoom from Earth 2. Now, some people have been sending me this graphic, and I gotta tell you, I find it compelling. They've brought up these pictures of Zoom, and then you look at John Wesley Shipp's eyes. I'm certainly not going to say these are definitely the eyes of the same guy. I'm not saying that. But damn, those are pretty damn close, those eyes. Those eyes are pretty damn close. And we knew that when Barry's dad left the show, we knew it was going to be temporary. We knew we were going to see him again. So I kind of think, I'm starting to buy into this theory. Now, my original theory was that Zoom from Earth 2 was Barry Allen. But people are starting to convince me about this John Wesley Shipp theory. I'm starting to buy into it. So let's keep our eyes on that. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next one today comes to us from Jennifer Mathis, who writes, Greetings from Texas. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I watched The Man from U.N.C.L.E. earlier this week, and I found that I really enjoyed it, even with the hype following it has online. I know that the film didn't bring in a too big of a profit from its budget and marketing, but I was wondering, what is the chance that we'll see a sequel? Hopefully with the same cast? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Jennifer. And I'm going to tell you right now, I loved that movie. I really enjoyed Man from U.N.C.L.E. I thought the chemistry, I went into it wondering if the chemistry between Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer would actually work. I wasn't sure that those two guys would work well on screen together, but I tell you, by the end of the film, I loved their chemistry. I really enjoyed the film, and it was mostly because of their chemistry. I just thought it was a really well put together film. However, when you mention in your email that you know that the movie didn't make too big of a profit, well, it did the opposite of profit. It actually lost the studio a bunch of money. The budget of the film was $75 million. It made $100 million at the theater, but when you realize that 1/3 of that $100 million doesn't go to the studios, it stays with the movie theaters. Now you've got a movie that made about $70 million. and cost 75. Then on top of the 75, you have to probably put in that 25 or $30 million marketing budget. So now you're talking about a movie that actually lost the studio about $30 million. If you saw A Man from U.N.C.L.E., you know that they set it up at the end to be a franchise. But I don't think they're going to pursue it because the first one just lost too much money. And I think this is going to be one of those films to me that is a real shame it didn't do better, because it is fun. This great chemistry between the characters. I smiled a lot. And I always bring this up. There's that one scene where Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer are fighting in the bathroom and breaking through the stalls and stuff like that. A lot of people forget that Armie Hammer was originally cast to be the new Bruce Wayne / Batman in that Young Justice League movie that George Miller was going to direct about 5, 6, or 7 years ago. Remember that? George Miller, who directed Mad Max, about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I can't remember the exact timeline, he was putting together a Justice League movie. And they were really close to shooting. They had it all cast. They had it storyboarded. They were really close to shooting. And then Warner Brothers pulled the plug. But they had cast this unknown actor that nobody had ever heard of yet, named Armie Hammer, to play Batman. So now I joke around with my friends when we see Man from U.N.C.L.E. and you see Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer fighting in the bathroom stalls. That's like your first glimpse at Batman versus Superman. So anyway, so I would love another Man from U.N.C.L.E. I really want to see them do another one, but I cannot blame them if they do not, because like I said, they lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of money, and I don't think there's any reason for them to believe that they could make money if they made another one. So while I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, I don't think it's going to happen. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Corey Leach, and Corey writes, I'm a 43-year-old man who just watched To Kill a Mockingbird for the first time tonight. I envy you, Corey. This being an American classic and Atticus Finch being the time-honored ideal of integrity. Has there been any talk of a remake for this? Well, first of all, Corey, congratulations on watching it. I envy you that you get to have the experience of watching it for the first time. A lot of people, unfortunately, in today's movie-loving audience, and I know there's a lot of people who watch MovieTalk and Mailbag who love modern movies. They love their comic book movies, their Star Wars movies, their action, adventure, and comedies and stuff like that, but haven't really versed themselves on a lot of the classics. To Kill a Mockingbird is a movie you simply have to watch. You have to see To Kill a Mockingbird. That movie is so far ahead of its time. It was dealing with racial issues at a time when nobody was dealing with them the way To Kill a Mockingbird did. It broke ground. And Atticus Finch is, I think AFI, they put out these big 100 lists, I think every year, every couple of years, best movie villains, best this, best that. But I believe they put out a list of the top 100 best heroes. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody fact check this for me, but I think Atticus Finch was number one, and deservedly so. When you watch that movie and you understand the era in which this movie was made, and you understand how far ahead of its time and how revolutionary it was in what it did and how brave the movie was. And then you look at the character Atticus Finch and you realize how many, especially if you haven't seen the movie yet and you watch it for the first time, you will then be shocked how many movies have paid homage to Kill a Mockingbird and specifically to the character Atticus Finch. A lot of movies are basically based on that same idea. And they were all revolutionized and all made possible by To Kill a Mockingbird and Atticus Finch. And as such, for good reason, To Kill a Mockingbird is kind of seen as one of those holy grail of movies that I don't think any studio wants to try to remake. I think there's a sense of reverence about To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, for me personally, I'm like, yeah, man, remake it. I think you could do something really great with a remake today with the right director and writer and all that kind of nonsense. I believe you could do something fantastic with that. But I understand why To Kill a Mockingbird would be on that list of maybe just 3, 4, or 5 movies that you say that I don't think any studio will ever have the guts to remake it and to try another iteration of it. I would be all for it. I'd be totally cool with it because, if they make another one, it sucks. Who cares? We still have the original classic. That's all that matters. But I can understand the trepidation. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a studio head, I'd be scared witless to try to do a To Kill a Mockingbird remake. I don't think I would ever pull the trigger on it. And I kind of think I don't think anybody's ever going to pull the trigger on it and try it. So we'll see. Anything can happen in this business. Well, let's keep an eye on it. But I don't think it's going to happen. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next one today comes to us from Michael Dufresnes, who writes, with the number of reboots and remakes of major motion pictures, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Ghostbusters, out there, what chance, if any, do you think there might be of Disney rebooting the Star Wars prequels? As it stands, the majority of fans pan the prequels as unwatchable. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Michael. And I am one of those fans that considers them unwatchable. I deny their existence. Well, I can't really deny their existence. They're there. They're part of canon. They're real. They're like that drug-addicted uncle of yours that nobody likes to talk about at family gatherings, but he's in the family, even though he's a complete embarrassment to the family. He is family. And that is the prequels. They're family. They're an embarrassment, but they're family. So while I will joke around a lot about I deny their existence, yeah, I do. I block them out in my head. When I think Star Wars, I do not think of episodes 1, 2, and 3. To me, personally, when I think of Star Wars, I exclusively think of 4, 5, and 6. That's Star Wars to me. And hopefully we're going to be adding 7 to that. That all being said, the notion of Disney rebooting the prequels is one that a lot of people have tweeted us and asked us about in the past. And the answer is no way, no how will they ever reboot the prequels. Not while the Star Wars movies are still going on. Because the Star Wars prequels, they have said this, they've etched this in stone. The Star Wars prequels, as they are canon. They are officially canon. Now, that to me means as long as they're doing episodes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, as far as they want to go, as long as those movies are being made, they can't touch the prequels. They are canon. They are official 100% canon. That means if you're going to remake them, you would have to do it shot for shot, word for word, same script, same everything. So what's the point? So while there are people out there like me who would be very intrigued to see Disney take another crack at those, erase those prequels from history and take another crack at them, the fact of the matter is, a lot of the movie-going audience who are not hardcore Star Wars fans would think it would be stupid. It's like, wait a minute, you already did those. You have it would be confusing. Like I said, they're already a part of canon. They're not going to touch them. And this is coming from the guy who hates the prequels more than anybody else on the planet. And I'm the one who's saying you can't touch them. So how ironic is that? Yeah, you can't touch them. They are canon. And so while they are the drug-addicted embarrassment, 50-year-old still without a job and living in your grandmother's basement family member, it's family. The prequels are family. So you can't touch them. They're canon, so I don't think they're ever going to... and they've been very, very hard on that, saying these prequels are canon. And I don't think George would ever allow it. I think it's probably one of the things that George put in the original contract. So yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's nice to dream, though. It's nice to dream. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Pedro Jesus, who writes, hey guys, greetings from Portugal. I was wondering if you're aware of the 2013 DC animated movie, Batman, The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. Because it's basically a Batman versus Superman, and I've never heard you mention it on the show. The same goes for Batman, Assault on Arkham, which is also like a Suicide Squad animated movie. So have you watched them? And what are your thoughts on this matter? Could there be similarities between the animated and live action plots? Thanks, guys, and keep up the excellent work. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Pedro. Here's the thing. The movie you're referring to, The Dark Knight Returns, that is actually a pretty much shot-for-shot remake of the all-time greatest single, graphic novels, in my opinion, The Dark Knight Returns. That's based on a graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns. It's actually exact. The art is the same. The dialogue is the same. Everything's the same. It's exact shot for shot. If you picked up The Dark Knight Returns and opened it up, you would instantly know what it is. And director Zack Snyder said that this upcoming, new Man of Steel movie, before they ever called it Batman vs. Superman movie, it's heavily influenced by The Dark Knight Returns. Not the animated movie that you're referring to, but to the original graphic novel. And then he brought out the actor from The Blacklist, and he plays the general in the first Man of Steel, and I don't know why his name's eluding me right now, but he was in the Matrix sequels as well. He brought him out on stage to read those iconic lines. I want you to remember, Clarke, and when you're alone in your darkest hours, I want you to remember the one man I want you to remember my hands at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. And he read it directly from The Dark Knight Returns, the graphic novel. So the question is not, is Batman vs. Superman, the upcoming movie, based at all on that animated movie, The Dark Knight Returns Part 2? The question, because it's not. What it is based on is the original graphic novel from like the late 80s or mid 80s. I can't even remember the year it came out. It was sometime in the 80s. The graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns. That's what it's based on. That is what Zack Snyder has talked about in the past and read lines from and done exposition of. So yes, there is influence, but it's not the direct story. It's just influenced by that. And I think you're going to see a couple of nods to that graphic novel in Batman vs. Superman when it does finally come out. Thanks a lot for the question. All right, the final question today comes to us from Chance A. And Chance A writes, my question is with Marvel movie studios separating from Marvel that owns and operates the comics and Netflix television shows. Will that affect the Netflix characters from ever appearing in the movies? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Chance. We were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier in the show, right? About that DC question. One of the things that's happened is Marvel Studios is not separated from Marvel. Marvel Studios is still owned by Marvel and all that kind of stuff. But what has happened is Kevin Feige used to answer to like the head of Marvel, this guy named Ike Perlmutter. And what has happened is that working relationship wasn't very good. And Kevin Feige has now got Disney to change their organization structure. So now Kevin Feige no longer answers to Ike Perlmutter. Instead now, Kevin Feige answers directly to Alan Horn, one of the top two guys at Disney. So now he goes directly to Alan Horn. He no longer has to deal with Perlmutter. But Perlmutter is still in charge of all the Disney television stuff. So you've had this big schism between Perlmutter and Feige. Feige runs the movies. Perlmutter runs the television stuff. They now no longer have to answer to each other, or at least Kevin doesn't have to answer to Perlmutter. I think, I mentioned this earlier in the show that we've seen that even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. itself has been distancing itself a little bit more from the movie universe, a lot more than it used to in the first two seasons. That Daredevil came out and is greatly distanced itself from the movie universe compared to what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did in the first two seasons. And I believe that this move is just going to continue that divide. They're still going to say they're in the same universe. And I think you will still see references. You won't see the TV show or the movies ever reference the TV show, but you will still continue to see the TV shows, I think, now and again reference the movies. But I think you're going to see that chasm grow more and more and more to the point where I think at some point they're just going to say they're not the same universe anymore. I think that's the way things are going. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. All right, guys, that'll do it for this installment of Collider Mailbag. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, I wanted to point out a couple things. First of all, everybody's always asked me about my Gunnar glasses. These are to help because I have 3 giant 27-inch monitors in front of me. I get headaches when I'm in front of monitors for too long, and these glasses, which were recommended to me a few years ago, do an amazing job. I can now be in front of my monitors like for hours at a time. I don't get eye fatigue. I feel great. But these are normally like $120, and I think right now on Woot, I think there's a sale on them right now for like $40 or $50. So you might want to check that out. The other thing I want to point out is you see my hobo facial hair making me look more stupid than I even normally do. It's continuing to grow out. It is November, which means it's time. I'm participating this year, like I have like I did last year, in No Shave November, in just as a hope that whenever you see my stupid looking face and how badly my facial hair grows, whenever you see it, it will remind you to donate to and support cancer research. There are very few bigger causes in the world than this, and cancer has affected and touched us all, either directly or indirectly. We all know somebody who's been affected by it, if not somebody in our own families. So it is No Shave November. So whenever you see my stupid looking face this month, please consider to go to the American Cancer Society or any other of the number of cancer research causes and donate $1, $5. You know what? Skip McDonald's tomorrow. I know you're going to have lunch at McDonald's tomorrow. You know what? Skip that. Just have an apple at home and take that $6 you're going to spend at McDonald's and donate to cancer research. That would be awesome. So that'll do it for me, guys, for this installment of Mailbag. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it so much. I'll be back again tomorrow. So my name's John Campea for Collider, and until next time, bye-bye.